to another edition of Remembering When. I'm joined by Hazel Clarke, well known around Bermuda now. But Hazel, I want to take you back to your running days and just competing. But how did it all start for you?
Oh, it's such a funny story. So, my older sister is a four-time Olympian, Clarke Diggs. My brother also was a world-class or, very high-level athlete. Both got full college scholarships. And so I grew up watching them. We had a age difference, so I could really see them in their training. It was really cold in New Jersey where we grew up, and it looked really not appealing to me at all. So I decided to try basically every other sport I could besides track and field. And my parents really had the philosophy of exposing me to everything. I wasn't good at a lot of things. There were a lot of things that I actually wasn't good at, basketball, for instance. But I always had to try to be my best and not quit. And so eventually I took up figure skating, went up for a figure skating jump, came down face first, cracked my chin open. And when I woke up in the hospital, my dad said, "I've had enough. You're going to start running track." And so I started running track after that. And I was a junior in high school when I started. So that's pretty late.
Now, because you were so active, did track become that much more easier for you?
I think it actually set a good foundation that I had been so active. And I think really the important thing about my upbringing that I wouldn't change is the fact that exposure piece. The fact that I had tried every sport and worked on all these basic sports fundamentals before I got to track and field. And so it was very easy for me to kind of, with my natural talent and some training, within a year, I was number one in the nation. So it happened for me very quickly, but my parents really were good about saying, "You're going to try cross-country skiing." I hated it, but I tried it. And I could never quit. And I was not always the star. So I learned how to lose and still try my best. And that's really important. Sometimes our young people, if they don't win, if they don't get the glory, they just want to walk away. I wasn't really like that.
When did you recognize talent and who chose the middle distance for you?
Oh, man, that's a good question. So my recognizing talent, my dad took me to a race. I had no coach. I had no training. And he said, "You're a Clarke. You get out there and you go for it and you're going to do great." And I'm like, this does not seem like a good situation. So I got out there and I took off and I'm leading the race. And about 600 meters in, everybody passed me one by one. It was painful. And I'm walking in and I'm hearing people, "Oh, honey, just get to the finish line." They're giving me the pity clap. And I got last place. And for me, that meant I wasn't good. I'm like, "I'm not good. You lied to me. I don't want to do this anymore." My dad said, "I wanted you to go out here and race. I know you have the talent. We're going to put the hard work with it now, and you're going to see the difference in your results. Talent is not enough." So that was a tough lesson. I wish I didn't have to learn that in front of hundreds of people or thousands of people. But I learned that lesson. And like I said, that next year, I started training with a coach, our high school coach, and I was number one in the nation. So I coupled talent with hard work, and that was something I never forgot.
When you start to see what's possible for you, when do you feel as if this is what I want to do, get a education from it and move even further into a career?
I'm going to be really candid with you, and it took me a long time to admit this. I never enjoyed running, and I never really thought about it that way. It was something that my dad specifically gave me really no option. You're going to do this, and you're going to do it well. And I did feel some pressure coming up in this Clarke family with my father, his movie, and Time magazine, and reporters outside of our house. It was a strange upbringing, and I felt there was a lot of attention on me. Looking back, I think that there wasn't as much pressure on me as I put on myself, but I struggled with that a lot. And then when I became number one in high school and went to college and became number one in college, I always felt like there was a target on my back, and there was this running style where I took off and led races. And it just, when I look back, I wish I could have enjoyed it more. I never thought about a professional career. When I was done, I had titles, and agents approached me, and Nike approached me, and Adidas, and a few people, and they said, "We're going to give you money to do this professionally." And I was like, wow. I don't know why it didn't resonate with me. I just was trying to be the best and make my family proud, honestly.
Yeah. Being that you brought up your father, how much, and you talked a little bit about the pressure. When you look at it now, reflecting on it, did you think that made you that much more stronger, having to deal with so many obstacles in the way, and the target on your back, as you said it?
Yeah, I think it did make me stronger. And I just think I had no option. Like my dad was the type, I remember I fell in one of my NCAA races. It was one where I was favored to win. And I came off like, sad. And I walked up and people were looking, my dad's waiting there. And I said, I bet you'll go out harder next time, dust yourself up. I mean, there just was no pity party. My dad was the most sympathetic person. So, I mean, he carries a baseball bat and a bullhorn. So I had to be tough. My mom tried to balance it. But I think now I'm very grateful for that. At the time, there were times where maybe I did want him to snuggle me and, oh, my baby, but that just wasn't how I was raised. And middle distance is a very tough discipline. You have to go out. I had to do morning runs on my own. I had to be self-disciplined. I had really grueling training sessions. It's a painful race. And so I think that prepared me for that type of training and type of atmosphere.
Qualifying for your first Olympics in 2000, what was those moments like in the lead up to it and trying to solidify yourself for the U.S. team?
I'll tell you, I'm actually working through a book right now, and I started reflecting back on that time. And that time was very odd because I came out of college, and my sister, 4 Olympic teams, my sister-in-law, 5, well, at the time, 3 and 4 Olympic teams. They had big names in the sport. And then here comes me at 21 years old. What is Hazel going to do? I always saw myself as the weak link. And when they started talking Clarke sisters, can they have a sweep? Can they make American history? I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the one that's left home. And this is going to be a terrible feeling. I'm not going to lie. I had all these negative thoughts and it scared me and it almost made me quit. I felt a lot of pressure going into it. To me, it seemed like, how can all 3 of us take the only 3 spots in the country? That just was kind of hard to fathom. And going into the race at the Olympic trials, I was in my hotel room and I was just trembling and shaking and filled with anxiety and laying in the dark. And my college teammate actually came to my door and said, let's walk up and down the hallway. And she talked to me and she said, I just want you to start the race. If you never want to race again after this, you don't have to. Start the race. You're ready. Start the race and just let everything take over. And so I started the race and I really would have to say God took over. I don't remember anything, race strategy, anything. And I ended up winning. And that was exciting, a shock to me, surprising to maybe some people, but really amazing. And that for me was a breakthrough where I just realized sometimes you just have to start and get past that nervousness and go for it. And to lead my family and lead the nation into the Olympic Games was a huge honor.
Well, when you get that honor, what goes through one's mind? Because to actually lead, like you say, lead a nation into the opening ceremony, for all of that, it's such a great honor. But for you, what did it mean for you?
You know what? I didn't get time to reflect because after the games, we went into People magazine shoot and Vogue shoot and it was like nonstop interviews. And I remember my brother saying, stay focused on the bottom line. You guys need to go to the games and represent the best you can. And it was almost distracting. We had literally like people set up at our practices taking photos. And as I reflect back on it, it was exciting, but there was also this underlying, okay, we've got to go there and really represent. And for me to make the Olympic final at 21 years old and run a PR, I think that was all I could ask of myself. Then at that point, I did feel disappointed because I wanted a medal. When I look back, the race is heartbreaking because I think I could have made a few different moves. I was very close, but at the end of the day, I represented well, and I enjoyed that honor of walking in behind the U.S. flag. My sister was the team captain, and they lined my sister-in-law, and I up at the front of the American contingency, and that was just huge. That was just to see the president waving at you and all these people from different countries. I just cannot explain that feeling.
4 years later, you're off to Athens. Explain those, give us some insight in those 4 years in the lead up to the 2004 games.
The 4 years were up and down. I had some good years. I had some top 10 in the world year rankings. And then I had a struggling year going into 2004. And I wasn't quite my best. And then I had, personally, going into the trials, some doubt maybe just because I just didn't get all the training I wanted to get in. But my sister-in-law was in that race with me. She won. I got second at the trials. Still very exciting to make the Olympic team. I remember the big distraction there was that my ex-husband proposed to me on the track there, and it just seemed like a lot was going on. I just remember feeling like, whoa, this is just a lot to take in. And then I got whisked away to Greece, and the environment there was not as friendly as Sydney, which was a bit disappointing. It's just at the time, the American sentiment wasn't the best. We couldn't hang our flags and really celebrate the way we had in Sydney. So that was an interesting comparison. And then I had a very freak accident where I was burned in the village, Olympic Village, with hot boiling water, and couldn't train at all at training camp, was literally in the bed all the way up to my race. So I didn't perform well there. And that wasn't really an ideal Olympic experience.
Did that make you even more determined over the next 4 years to try and make it to China?
Yes, I always had that determination, and I always took it year by year. That's the funny thing about track and field. You've got world championships, which are really basically like the Olympics. In 2005, I ran 157. I PR'd coming off of that really turbulent year. And I was fortunate that my sponsor stuck by me the entire way. They used me in a lot of their advertisements. They had me on their shopping bags and on the storefronts. And so I was doing a lot of those campaigns as well with Nike. So I just felt very fortunate to still have the support even after having a down year in 2004. Came back with a PR in 2005, some top 10 world rankings going into 2008.
What are some of the things you remember about people telling you that kind of inspired you along the way?
I struggled with performance anxiety, and I think I didn't open up about it, to be honest, enough. I wanted to seem tough, and I didn't want people to know that I had weakness or fears. So I would get out there, and people say, "You're so courageous, you're a front runner." They didn't know I was running from the fear of losing. I wasn't running with confidence. I was scared. I wish I would have opened up to people around me because I think they could have given me some good insight. But I remember one time my sister-in-law, who's a world champion, Olympic gold medalist, she saw me kind of rocking before a race, and she said, "What are you scared of?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm just scared. I'm just nervous." And she said, "All you can control is going out there and doing your best. You can't control what anybody in another lane does. You can't control anything else besides that. If you can walk off that track and know that you did your best and leave your best effort out there, then you can always hold your head high." And I tried to remember that. It's really true. There are some races where I fell across the line, got a near second, or missed the mark that I wanted, but I knew there was nothing more I could do, so I could hold my head high. I always felt bad when I went out there and I didn't execute or didn't run up to my potential. That was when I felt bad. So that was the best advice I got.
What would you have done different in your career if you had a second chance?
Oh, I've been thinking. It's like you're in my mind because I've been thinking about this so much lately, and it hurts. I'm like, I would go back and I would enjoy it more. I would have more fun. I would stop looking at it as this huge burden. I have no idea why for so long I was like burdened by being a top athlete. And this was a wonderful experience, a blessing from God. Instead of going out there and saying, "I can't wait to see what I'm going to do today," it was always, "I can't lose. I can't let down my sponsor. I can't let down my family." And those are negative goals, and that's negative speak. And so I would get rid of that negative talk in my head, and I would have I had the potential, I think, to do more than I did. Sometimes I would run really tight. I would just go out there and flow and run free and know that there's nothing to fear. I'd get rid of all that fear. It took me until I was about 30-something years old to get rid of fear in my life. So
when you look at the 800 and the strategy of the race, how do you think it out before actually running the race? Because every race is different, isn't it?
Yep. And that's where my front running technique, that's where it became problematic, because you can't go to Europe when everyone is so good and run away from this field. You can maybe play those games in college, high school. And so I needed to be more focused on strategy, but my nervous energy didn't allow me to always do that. I've been putting up some old school videos of myself running, coming through 56 seconds. You understand that, to run 1:59, 2 minutes. I didn't need to do it that way. And so you have to be poised. I think the real top level champions are poised under pressure. And that was the little element that I was missing that I wish I could tweak.
When you watch runners of today, especially in the 800, can you tell if they're tight, if they're relaxed just by their form?
Absolutely. I can tell now the young people, because I have camps in New Jersey and New York with my family, Clarke family running camps. And now I can tell what kids are struggling with performance anxiety. And I get up on the stage and I'm candid with them because for the longest time I didn't share this. But I think that's the value I can bring to the kids I work with. I tell them, you know, I'm a 3-time Olympian. I'm a 6-time national champion, and I struggled with nervousness and anxiety, and it hindered me. And I don't want that to happen to you. And they break down crying. This is something that a lot of talented athletes struggle with, and we lose great talent because they don't know how to manage it. So I can see it a mile away, and I try to work with the mental more than the physical. Because if the mental's not right, you'll never reach your full physical ability.
What does being inducted into the University of Florida Hall of Fame mean for you and your family?
It meant a lot. That was a magic time. That was one of the only times I see my dad cry. He shed a tear because I talked about, and I don't want to get, I didn't realize, or I didn't appreciate the dedication, I guess, and the commitment that my parents had, specifically my dad. He came to every competition I had at University of Florida. He never missed one. We used to joke he had a private jet. And so I talked about that, seeing him on the sideline. He wasn't a rah-rah type of dad. He would just say, go, Peachy, you can do it. But just to have him there meant so much to me. And so my brother was my coach there at University of Florida. My father, my mother were there. My sister was there and my sister-in-law. And so it was a family affair. And I just thank them for being there with me through that. And I had great teammates too. My teammates are my best friends and they helped me through it as well.
If you were able to speak to people that were looking to become Olympians down the road, what would be one of the biggest messages you can actually give them or advice you can give them?
Well, there's a few pieces of advice, and I think my advice varies according to who I'm talking to. And I'm going to talk about our Bermudian youth for a second, because what struck me is the talent. There's a lot of talent on this island, and there are a lot of people that are committed to developing that talent. I think that the first thing I would encourage parents, coaches to do is not work in silos, not be afraid to share talent, not be afraid to let athletes try different sports. Just because you have a great footballer, let them try track and field, expose them to as many sports as possible. I think that model works, and you'll talk to a lot of accomplished athletes, and that model worked for them as well. That's number one. Number two, you always have to keep in mind and be striving for something, especially when you're from a smaller place. You got to remember the world standards and what's out there in the world. I believe our athletes can compete with anyone in this world, but we have to train them and put them in the mindset to understand what's out there and what they're up against. And so just really fostering those competitive environments for our young people is really important. But I have been blown away. I got to work with a few of our Bermudian athletes at different times, and I'm blown away by their ability to adapt and their mentality. And once I got in there and said, you will not quit, you will do this, they could do it. And so I know that we have world-class talent here. We've got to work together to foster it. We've got to have some high performance focused development. I'm really passionate about that. So that's what I would say. And just for kids in general, I would say, again, let go of that fear. I see fear as a major hindrance that I see commonly. Let go of it. Go out there and don't be afraid to lose. It's not about that. Go out there and do your best and put the work in and understand that it's not always going to be fun. I missed a lot of parties, but the best party I've been to is the one at the Olympic Games. So sometimes you have to delay that immediate gratification for the bigger picture.
Well, Hazel Clarke, I want to thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it. And remembering back your days on the track, on the world stage, because every I guess track and field star or person that does the sport wants to get to the Olympics, but not everyone does. So for you to go 3 times representing your country, an amazing feat, and holding those 6 national titles as well, and a Hall of Famer. So thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry that little Hazel was fussing a bit,
No problem.
I always enjoy sitting down with you and talking to you. And I just thank you for the way that you cover sports on the island. And your passion is so palpable for sports, for the development of athletes, and also honoring the strong sports legacy in Bermuda, which is really important. We have great athletes that deserve that recognition. So thank you for that. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
Take care.
Okay.